Or Kenny Pickett.
Well, this all began last week when Rod Woodson came on here and on the Pat McAfee show and said, I think for long-term effect, if you put Pickett in there with these young receivers, young backs, and let them all grow together, that's the key to success. I'd love for Pickett to be the guy now. That's basically what Michael Irvin said. Now, Michael Irvin got his start with Troy Aikman. And Ron, I didn't realize I knew Aikman was got beaten around for a year. I didn't realize he got beaten around basically for 3. His first great season was his 4th year in the NFL.
And then that's when they brought in Emmett, right?
Somewhere in there, yeah. He was 0-15, Troy Aikman, in his first year, and just got absolutely murdered. Let's hear Michael Irvin on why he thinks it's best to play Kenny Pickett right now.
So do we continue the course, or do we say let's try to give it this thing an injection, some little hope here? Because I always say hope dictates effort. Maybe we do just try to give him a change, just give him a different look. Let's put the kid in and see what everything else happens. Because I believe it'll be a little jolt of energy, and maybe you start seeing something.
And he also, he couched it in Aikman terms of, that and he could grow together with his young receivers. They go through all this adversity together. It only helps them.
And that's what Woodson told us last week. Same thing.
And then McFadden, he pointed out that if he was still playing defense, they wouldn't mind seeing Pickett because they'd throw all these looks at him. To which I think, wouldn't that be a great experience for him? Let's start seeing it now.
Yep.
It's going to happen sooner. It's not like by making him wait, Ron. He's suddenly going to be all that much better prepared for live action against, I don't know, pick the best defense in the league right now. Who?
They're
Packers,
Bucks? They're going to see one at Tampa in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
against
exactly.
Tampa in a couple weeks.
Would he be that much better prepared not having played to face a team like Tampa? I'm not sure you can prepare for that unless you see it. This was McFadden. 10 minutes ago or so with us. I asked him in a rousing game, I might add, of yes or no.
Oh, it was definitely rousing.
If he thought the Steelers would still finish with a winning record and make the playoffs. He said yes. Ron followed up by saying, please elaborate on that.
I'm curious why you think they can still have a winning record and make the playoffs.
Number 8 will save our season. Kenny Pickett will save our season. And I might be a little bit financially biased towards Kenny Pickett because when we drafted him, I did put money on Kenny's name to win Rookie of the Year. So I would definitely feel good about that. But I think Kenny Pickett, if he gets an opportunity to jump in, man, we're going to see a different type ball club.
Ron,
at least he was honest about his
I like
bet.
that.
At least he was honest about his bet.
I like that. So it's not just the emotional fans who are always going to chant for the next guy. This is going back to week 1, the Peter Kings and Ed Bouchettes of the world, wondering at least, if not advocating, if this could happen. And now it's Woodson and McFadden and Irvin and even Chris Hoke last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, didn't discount the idea. It doesn't sound to me like he's a big Trubisky guy. Now, he might prefer to see Rudolph.
He's willing to go with Mason Rudolph.
But he also said, the first time I asked him about it, that Pickett would be the better option, or might be a better option right now. This is becoming just a wave of let's see Pickett. And a lot of it's based on Trubisky, I think.
And Tomlin is saying we're going to tune out the noise.
Yes.
And we're going to roll up our sleeves and continue to go to work. Said I've seen improvement every week. I've seen improvement in Trubisky every week. He's tuning out the noise, as he said. We're not going to blow into the wind. What was it? What else did he say?
Yeah, not going to blow in the wind. This is a no blink business.
No blink business.
It's a no blink business.
Ain't that the truth? My favorite one. We're going to show steely resolve.
Steely resolve, yeah. Smile in the face of adversity.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Oh, he brought them all out.
Yes, he did.
You got to bring that back, that quote. He had 8 cliches like rapid fire.
I went back and transcribed it. He said, and I'll find the audio, the last couple games haven't unfolded the way we would have liked, But we're in a no-blink business. Sometimes you have to show steely resolve, smile in the face of adversity, and roll up our sleeves and get back to work.
I love that. So here we are, and it's the Jets, and if it's ugly early, the fact that it's the Jets changes to me the whole sort of dynamic of how the crowd might react, how Tomlin might react. The Jets stink. They might be the worst team in the league. They lucked out against the Browns and won a game. I get it. But they might be the worst team in the league. They're the Jets. Ron, from the very first pass, we were just talking about this during the break. Trubisky and the offense are going to be under fire and subject to boos, and we want Kenny's, I think, from pass number one in this game. And if it goes poorly against this team, it could change everything.
Yeah, and I mean, this makes the perfect sense. You have a home game against a bad team. If you are going to make a change, this would be the time to do it. I don't know that I want to put Pickett in against Buffalo the following week. I'd rather do it now, but Tomlin clearly. That doesn't mean he won't change his mind if Trubisky's bad in the first half. I don't think he will necessarily, but it doesn't mean it's an impossibility.
I don't know what Buffalo's injury situation is, but if it's a team that's playing an all-backup secondary again, that might not be the worst thing. Plus, Pickett is a guy who, when the lights come on, and where do they come on brighter these days than in Buffalo with Josh Allen? I wouldn't mind seeing that. But in the meantime, man, you fail against the Jets. And I actually think Trubisky did get better last game. I don't think he was the problem last game, necessarily. Of course, I would have gone to Pickett before that game. But if they're making progress, Ron, and all this progress leads to a 2-touchdown outing against a mediocre defense in Cleveland, that doesn't add up to much. What's it going to add up to this week? Do they have to have a big game offensively here for Trubisky to save his job? Does he have to play really well?
I think if he plays, gets a little better than he did in Cleveland and they win, he's going to stay with them.
The in-game switch is really interesting because now I'm thinking back to the last time Mike Tomlin did that. How similar is this situation to them going into Cincinnati against the terrible Bengals team?
And he brought in Duck in the second half.
He did not want to bring in a Duck. He didn't. And it wasn't just the first half. It took Mason throwing ground balls on the first series of the second. Like, it reached epic proportions where he had no choice, really, but to go to Duck. Mason Rudolph was broken from the Browns debacle and from that. And if for some reason, Ron, this goes way south and Trubisky is awful in the first half and the Steelers are looking at 1-3, I honestly believe he could go to Pickett in the second half. I don't think that will happen. I think this offense, because it's the Jets, is going to look good and stave this off for a while. But if it goes south for Trubisky and they're looking at 1-3 and perhaps a season wrecker, I think he would go to Pickett in the second half. Do you?
It'd have to be a real bad performance by Trubisky in the offense, I think, for that to happen. The Duck situation was a little different, though, because, he knew – he had already seen Duck. Duck, you were at the game in L.A., right, against the Chargers, that Duck led them to the win.
Was the Bengals game after that?
That was after that,
okay.
I believe, because then they went back to Mason, and then he benched Mason. He knew Duck wasn't his future, I don't think cared about throwing him out there, so to speak. I think he's, he knows Pickett is his guy, and he doesn't want to put him in before he thinks he's ready.
I think he could, and I think he would. I think only extremely dire circumstances right now would produce a quarterback change for Tomlin. Trailing against the Jets and having a horrible first half for your quarterback and staring at 1-3.
That might.
If not, then I don't know what the heck's going to do it.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
Folsey, what do you think it takes here?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I brought it up. I think that would be the scenario that I could see Tomlin pulling the trigger on it. I mean, if especially at home, and if they get out of the first half and they're down like 13-6 to the Jets, I mean, at that point you're saving face. At that point, you're just like, okay, let's not embarrass ourselves for the second half
you
here.
know what the crowd is going to be yelling.
Right. It's going to be ugly if they go into that halftime locker room down 13-6 at the Jets. At home.
Maybe Michael Irvin and Rod Woodson and Bryant McFadden will be in the crowd yelling for Kenny at that point. You think? They'll have their own little section, and they'll be yelling for Kenny. Former NFL greats.
The noise that Tomlin wants to tune out, it's getting a little louder.
We are not going to blow in the wind. That's the sentiment I want to relay, Tomlin said. We are in a no-blink business, particularly if we believe in what we do and the people we are doing it with. I guess I'd feel much better about that, Ron, if there was like a playoff win in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I just don't know if the whole Steeler way feels real, feels like something to rely on in tough times anymore.
Where's the past success that we used to rely on?
A long time ago, honestly. There are kids now who are going into 9th grade. They're headed into high school who haven't really seen the Steelers, advance to a Super Bowl anyway. And what they have seen in the past 11, 12 years is playoff failure. In 10 of those years, because they won 2 playoff games one year, one in another. In 10 of the past 12 years, there's been 0 playoff wins.
Track record not very good.
It doesn't feel like the Steeler way is necessarily something to rely on in tough times anymore, Ron. That's what I mean.
Nope. No, I can't argue with that. I've been a big believer that the Steeler way that people like to say is overrated anyhow. I think they're not a lot different than every other franchise in the league. The way they operate, what they do. You know, people seem to think maybe they're a little on a higher ethical level, whatever. They're not. The Steeler way is no different than anyone else.
And it's not even like they have a lot of guys that have been there, done that kind of deal. Like Cam Hayward's been around forever, sure, but how many playoff wins does he have?
He's been involved in, what, 3?
Yeah. I mean, throughout his entire career. So there's not too many of those guys around either.
I mean, we're getting to the point now.
Yeah, after Ben was gone, he was the only one.
Right.
Yeah. We're getting to the point now in the last decade plus, 11 years going on 12. How many teams in the AFC have less playoff wins than the Steelers? Patriots and Bills both have more, right? Bills have won.
Well,
they've
Bengals won 3 last
Bengals
year.
won at least as many, sure.
I mean, Cleveland,
Baltimore,
won one,
obviously, right? Indy, Tennessee, Houston's won more playoff games in that time. Kansas City. I mean, we're just a decade. 12 years is a long time, Ron.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
It is a long time.
It's longer than Bill Walsh or Jimmy Johnson or John Madden or Vince Lombardi coached. And Tomlin did make those Super Bowls twice in the first 4 years. The first 4 years were amazing. But, man, since then, in the postseason, it's been rough. Sometimes getting there has been rough. If they miss the playoffs, how many will that be? Half the time in the last 6 years that they've missed?
I'd have to look it up.
They would have missed this year. They would have made it the last 2, missed it the 2 before that. So it would be 3 misses in 5 years. And last year they needed a literal miracle and a third wild card to get in. I mean, that's 5 years is a fair amount of time, too, in the league, you know?
Yeah, it sure is.
I mean, when was the last time they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders?
I think we all thought for a while in 20.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year, nobody thought
Nobody
that.
did.
I mean, they went south in a hurry after, and I think it all changed when Bud Dupree went down. I truly believe that.
17, Folsey.
Yeah.
They went 13-3 and won the division and had the horrible,
And
that
they
the
had no
Shazier
business-
injury?
They had no business losing to the Jaguars that game in the playoffs.
At home, absolutely.